You're welcome back from the break. This is The Pulse, and you can join us with your thoughts and comments also via Facebook and also on our Twitter feed as well. Let's go back to that earlier story. It's quite heart-wrenching. I don't know if you've watched that video, but the police has called on us to stop sharing the video. An investigative team has also been put in place to investigate it. But let's take a look at that story a bit further. I've been joined in the studio by Efe Plan. She's a founding member of the Pepedem Ministries. Welcome, Efe. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you.
Have you seen this video?
Yes, I have.
What went through your mind when you were watching that video?
So I was a bit caught away from the internet over the weekend, and when I came back onto the internet, there were so many notifications, you know, to us as a group and to us as individuals, for us to take a look at it and see what we can do. When I first heard that it was a rape case, I honestly, I was a bit numb, because it's like now it's becoming normalized. It's becoming a normalized reality where we wake up every day or every now and then and there's an issue of rape. So the first inclination was not to even go see what is happening in the video, what exactly it is. But the first inclination was just to regroup my thoughts and our thoughts on the issue before it became necessary to go investigate into the actual details of the video to get an idea of how serious it is. So my first inclination was just, well, I mean, now this is where we are now as a country. It's becoming a thing in this country, just like you have in India. We shouldn't be. And it also tells you how slacking we've been together as a society in this. How the lack of urgency, you know, on the part of all stakeholders, the lack of urgency. The last serious issue that came with the Asin case, it took about 2 weeks before the Ministry of Gender came out to speak on the issue. And when she finally did, she actually made statements saying we've over-sensationalized the issue and that we should allow the laws and the structures to work. That should tell you that rape is not on the agenda. It's still not on the agenda in this society. But current trend, I am of the view that this situation has existed over the years, but then social media is bringing it to bear. I think that is doing its own bit as a new form of media, but we should take it seriously.
But talk of social media, people were really enraged about this. There were several comments. I'm sure we'll be getting to look at some of them. But so far, in terms of actions being taken, let's talk about this particular issue. Of course, in the previous issues, less has been done. But this particular case that you've watched this video, is there anything that Pepedem Ministries would want done in particular with this issue? So,
first of all, I mean, we are now as a group gathering our thoughts on it to have a unified voice, because when things happen like this, we all tend to have different views and opinions and ideas about strategizing, but as a group we need to have one voice. So we're currently doing that. We're about to release our press statement. At least by close of the day, we'll be issuing our press statement on this. That's the first step. This is drawing attention officially to the case. Secondly, I am so glad at this point we've been reached out by a lot of members from the media, which is a good thing. Joy FM promptly, called us. A lot of media houses have reached out to us, meaning that they are willing to offer their voice or their resources in terms of the role they play in our society. And so, I mean, looking at the nature of this issue, a gang rape, and it's being videotaped and being circulated, that is another issue altogether. And it will take a lot of deliberations for us to even come to terms with the fact that this is actually happening in Ghana. So as a group, we are going to do what we do best, which is amplify our voice on the issue, call on whoever we can to see what we can do in our jurisdiction as an advocacy group, which is to talk, and then move it further from there. But in terms of security, I've just read a police statement. They said an investigative team has been put together to look at the video. Do you think that we'll go anywhere with this? It's a very tough question you've asked, because there's more than enough proof over the years and over similar cases where talk, and then I mean it just goes down the drain. And that is why we are here wanting to make a difference. So we will push it. We will push it whichever way we can. We will pepper them. We will pepper we will pepper them. We'll pepper the system to see what we can do, if nothing at all, to even get help for the girl, psychological help, medical help. That's our priority. And then we can look at the law taking its course on the perpetrators, which is the group of guys who did this.
But if you monitor report on this, most media houses will use allegedly a gang rape. Because, I don't know, but do you think that should be the way? Because some have already started interrogating the video itself, that the girl did not fight enough. What if it comes out that it was just a movie and all that? That's the kind of discussion also that's being had about this whole video. You think that's the right thing?
I think one of the concerns that we have raised as a group is that as tragic as the video is, I think that equally damning is the commentaries that have emerged on social media. When issues like this happen, unless it's a kid, which everybody knows this child couldn't have participated actively in the act, we all recognize it immediately as a crime. The moment it becomes a bit of an adult, then all of a sudden we're asking these questions. In the past, you see people asking, what was she wearing? What was she doing there? We need proof. We need more proof to justify that she's indeed been raped, because her word, of course, is not enough. But here's a video. Here is a video that is showing us details of the act, and people are still doubting the content of the video. What does that tell us about our society? I think that culturally and systemically, we have an underdeveloped conscience when it comes to rape culture, consent, and boundaries, personal boundaries, when it comes to how we view our bodies and how others view our bodies as women. And so fundamentally, fundamentally, there are social, cultural, religious, systemic underpinnings that enable these this sort of acts to happen. If not the act, the commentaries and the judgments that come with the act cannot be isolated from the situation. And this is why Pepper Them Ministries exist, because we are more concerned with the mindsets and the perceptions that shape all our gender troubles in our society. And if you look at the statistics, there's every cause and every reason to be more concerned when it happens to women, because the truth of the fact is that it's more likely to happen to women than men.
But if watching the video also, one issue that comes to mind is, how come that these boys would even think that they can even do this and film in the process and share?
Yes.
What is the world coming to?
So
especially the society.
When I heard of the video and I heard of the contents being described all over social media before I had the courage to go watch it, when I heard it, it just sounded very familiar. But then when I watched it, it was also more familiar. This was a clear case of boys being boys. Like we say it all the time. Oh, boys, they'll be boys. Boys are going, and those were typically boys being boys, having fun, taking advantage of someone they can overpower, sharing it amongst themselves, discussing it, and watching and taking pride in how they're making someone uncomfortable. That is typically what that narrative of boys being boys fits into. We allow them to go away with so much. We don't hold boys enough responsible. Exactly, we don't hold them responsible enough for their actions or inactions. And we don't. What are we teaching boys about their own bodies, and what are we teaching them about women's bodies? How are we teaching them to assess their own privileges and their rights? And how are we teaching them to view that in relation to women? Do girls and boys have the same rights? Because then if the situation is prevalent on one part, then there's a deficiency on the other part. And so these are the things that we would like to look at, and these are the things that we like to look at, take a step back and then analyze the situation, and then hope that culturally and generally we all develop some sense of awareness when it comes to gender discussions.
But there's also been talk about advocacy groups like yourself failing in the part of educating girls also about their rights and what can be done to them, how they should own their bodies, and nobody can touch them in a way that they ought not to touch them. There's been talk that you, Pepper Them, for instance, you failed in that area. Looks like you just advocate when it happens. How about the proactive measures? Educating these girls before or to avoid these incidents from happening? I
think that's a very unfortunate statement because I grew up in this country. Most of us grew up in this environment, and it's a lie if you say women have not been taught to be conscious of these situations. I mean, when you're growing up, society doesn't tell you directly that men are beasts, but that's what it technically teaches you to think of men.
Really?
When you're going somewhere in the dark, don't walk alone. Why shouldn't I walk alone? Why shouldn't I walk alone? When you're being warned of not walking in the dark alone, who are they warning you of? Men. Don't wear this when you go outside. Who are they warning you up against? Men, the boys you grow up with in your society. So technically, that's how we shape. So if we say we haven't brought up girls to take care of themselves well or to look at themselves, then it's a lie. We are told not to dress in certain ways because of men, because men are going to fail in certain regards. We are told not to go in certain areas alone or at certain times because why? So I think that rather the reverse has happened. We have spent all our time policing the bodies of women and policing the interactions and jurisdictions of women in our society. It's time to do that to the boys.
How are we going to do that?
Pepper them.
Pepper them it is. But just before I let you go, Effie, there's this issue also about Miss Ghana. I'm sure you've been monitoring the narrative on that. There's been some discussion over the weekend. Some beauty queens have come up. There's one thing that was profound, that the allegation was that Ina Patti, for instance, had to tell these girls that be nice and sweet to the partners, those the sponsors and all that. You'll be monitoring that.
Yes.
What came to mind? If somebody tells you be nice and sweet to a business partner,
acceptable was actually one of them.
Acceptable. What does that mean?
I mean, I think that it follows out with, when it's said like this out of a certain context, it can mean anything. But within the context of the narratives that have come out so far, the time, the agenda for the meetings and all of that, I mean, come on. And I do not want to believe that is true, but you see, these narratives around Miss Ghana and beauty pageants in general have always been with us. But you see, there's been this pretense, culture of pretense and culture hypocrisy, culture of pretense, culture of silence that enables it to persist. But you see, there's a wave coming, even in Hollywood. There's a huge wave. All the powerhouses are coming down. So there's a huge wave. And I am so happy that these young women, if it is true, because so far they remain allegations, but if it is true, I am so glad and so proud that these young women are coming out to speak. It doesn't matter if it happened 10 years ago. It doesn't matter if it happened 2 years ago or just a month ago. They are talking about it. They are finding their voices and they're discovering their rights and their worth, and they're speaking up about it. The bodies involved should all take this up. Miss Ina Patti and her brand should not take it lightly because it's their brand at stake here. And the girls speaking up because it is their reality should also not give up on this. Both parties should push it till the truth comes out, until some form of justice is sought. Interesting. I'm sure we can take some comments on Facebook, because people have been writing to us, a number of them. I'll try and read some of those comments. This one from Kuri Hani, it says, this is not about talk. They have done it on tape. Almost all of them have their faces in the video. What else is the police waiting for? Does this amount to generalization? Let those who break the law face it. Don't give chance for those for talks on this. This one also from Kinsley Gosh Mello. It says they will be caught and named suspects, and then investigations will start when there is a clear evidence. Time will be wasted and nothing actually may happen thereafter. What a system. And this one also, it says I've been sad since yesterday. There's also one from Tom. It's a boy Tom. It says the Ghanaian society is sexually tensed. Every advert has a sex connotation, and every hit song is laced with profane lyrics. You see aphrodisiac being sold openly on the road. So what do you expect? That's no excuse though. And this one from Nanajiman says the girl resisted with all her might for 5 solid minutes. The guys are very heartless. I pray they get arrested and face the law. The judge in this case should be just as heartless in his judgment as those fools were in the video. There's more of the comment, more and more. Marcel Edem says, what at all is happening in Ghana? Are we safe at all? Things that people do in the past and hide are the things people do today, and even share it on social media. May God help us. My thoughts as well. And then Matthew and Nana Bedu says, I believe there's so much nudity on our media and lack of sex education in our families. I think the laws must also
be enforced and announced publicly, those whom the law has dealt with, to serve as deterrent to others. More and more of your comments, I'm sure, as we go on. Maybe I'll take two more. I watched the video yesterday after a Facebook friend shared it on his wall. The excitement of the boys while they took advantage of their victim was very much nauseating. It's sad we have thrown morality to the dogs. The police must act now. Jikunu's comment also, he says, first, how did the girl find herself in the room? Ife, you see, you're asking. Secondly, also he says, has she ever been intimate with any one of these guys before? Thirdly, do these guys know the magnitude of the crime they have committed? If it were something they planned on doing without detection, then why did they videotape the crime? The law must act quickly and swiftly to make an example of these hoodlums. He goes on. So if you see, I'm sure we've read some of these comments. Your thoughts?
So I think that there's every reason why we should do what we're doing. Look at the commentaries. What was she doing in the room
in the first place?
Why should that even be the first thing to come to your mind?
Why shouldn't that be the first thing that comes to your mind? It shouldn't.
There's a video of 4 or 5 or how many boys pinning a young girl and having sex with her in turns. So what, are we saying men and women shouldn't interact anymore? Friends shouldn't visit each other anymore? Men and women should be kept apart from each other because we cannot trust ourselves to respect people's boundaries, to have respect and an awareness of consent. You want to do this with somebody, the person is clearly protesting, and you're still going ahead. That is what the conversation.
But the question they will ask you in the past is, a girl, what are you doing in the company of 4 boys in a room?
Why shouldn't I be in the company? Unless, of course, you're telling me I should start seeing men as evil and men as inherently beastly nature or beastly nature. Unless that's what you're teaching girls, unless that is what you want us to believe of men. I don't want to believe that of men.
You don't put them in a position for them to do that to you.
No, I'm saying what we do encourages men to act that way because they know that while this is going on, they are going to thrive on these commentaries that will come. At the end of the day, she will be blamed more than I will be blamed. So it encourages men, even the most average of our men is most likely to find themselves in these kinds of situations because he already knows the conversations that will go on, because it's premeditated and they always premeditate and know pre-hand how this is likely to be viewed in our society. But you see, all over, we need a serious, and this is where I want the Ministry of Gender to come in.
Yeah.
First of all, Ministry of Gender should sit down and have a stakeholder engagement all over the country with advocacy groups, with law enforcement. We need to sit down and strategize and develop either a 2-3 year campaign, national campaign, on getting everybody into recognizing sexual harassment, rape, consent, to have these knowledge bits on our fingertips, so that everybody from the teacher in the classroom to the banker in the corporate world to the trusky driver to the cocoa seller knows how to recognize these situations, knows what to do when it happens immediately, knows how to avoid them, and most importantly, challenging. Ministry of Gender has just set up a campaign, He for She.
Yeah.
I think that for this campaign to be more effective, we need to more than ever to teach our boys what to do, how to do the right thing, and to challenge themselves that they can do the right thing. A woman's body is not yours for the taking.
It's not yours.
It's not yours.
I totally agree. But do we have any timelines that you want some action to be taken, at least on the part of the police?
As soon as possible. I don't want to go in the patronizing direction, which is, if this were your daughter and if this were, I don't want to go that direction. This is a crime. This is a crime. And as soon as possible, the media, I'm so glad you guys are chancing up on this situation. Whoever needs to add their voice to make this thing get to the end must rise up.
And they made it easier. They showed their faces.
Exactly.
So there should be something.
No excuses here.
Exactly. Something done about it. But I must add that the police, if you didn't catch that, Olivia Texan, Assistant Superintendent of Police, has issued a statement to that effect. It says the CID has put together a team to investigate it. And then they are asking also, appealing to all media houses and those in possession of the video to stop circulating it. Maybe that's the first step. Stop circulating it because the girl's face is in there. So stop circulating that video, and that anybody with any relevant information should also personally report to the cybercrime unit of the CID headquarters for further action on that. Efe, thank you very much. Let's continue to pepper them. Continue peppering them. Efe Plan is a founding member of Pepper Them Ministries.